All right, fact check this podcast, episode 29, and it is impeachment round 2 week, which might be the most ridiculous shit I think I've ever seen. The point has been made multiple times that the the reason that they're impeaching Trump for a second time is for inciting violence or whatever, and I'm not going into the details of his speech and what he said or what he didn't say or any of that stuff. Like, it's inconsequential. What the fact of the matter is that for the better part of 3 months, the Democrats actually encouraged and incited violence from the BLM and Antifa riots that went on in basically every major city across the country. And none of them have been impeached. None of them have seen anything negative come of that. They haven't been removed from Twitter. They haven't been removed from Facebook. They haven't had anything happen to them. So how is it that the actual legitimate violent protests that went on for months on end that resulted in an entire block of Seattle being overrun by the bad kind of anarchists, all of that was fine and nobody received any level of punishment? But now they've removed Donald Trump from all social medias. If you aren't concerned about what's going on here and the precedent that's being set, I don't know what's wrong with you. Like, you are oblivious to the facts of what is happening in this country right now. Like, it is legitimately 1984 shit, and they are removing people from social media platforms. They are completely removing social media platforms that won't conform to what they expect and what they want. They are demonetizing people. They're taking away people's access to their banks to be able to use the money that they have, or to make more money, or to, like, it is a scary, scary precedent that's being set. And if you think it only applies to Donald Trump, you are absolutely batshit crazy. It will apply to everyone. And eventually, it will apply to literally everyone, unless you are willing to get down on both knees and suck the government's dick. It is going to apply to you. And if you're willing to do that, I don't want you around me, because you are a part of the problem. What we have now is a total fascist government. For all you anti-fascists who thought that Donald Trump represented fascism, you have no fucking clue what fascism really is, and you need to read a book. You need to read some history, and you need to go back and look and see what World War II, World War I, what history has shown, what the communist Russia and now communist China, like, these are. And actually, I would argue that the Chinese citizens right now are probably a little bit more free than U.S. citizens under what this governmental regime has become. But if you don't see what is happening, you are willfully ignorant of the facts of history. And that doesn't surprise me. Most people are willfully ignorant of just about every fucking thing, because people don't want to know what's actually going on. People don't want to actually look at this stuff and think rationally or reasonably. People don't want to put forth the time and the effort to learn anything. And it is an absolute travesty that that's the case that we're living in right now in this country. And what's really crazy is, like, with all of this, like the second round of impeachment and everything else that's going on, I mean, for all the talk of unity and blah 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 bullshit, none of this stuff is going to accomplish any of that. Like, if you want to actually achieve unity, what you need to do is open the country back up, stop targeting people who you think are your enemy because they supported Trump. Stop targeting libertarians because we don't support either of you bastards. And actually start making inroads to get along and to find middle ground and to make things amenable and to make things workable. Because right now it's not. It is not in any way workable or amenable. The whole thing is divided, and it only gets more divided. Impeaching Trump only divides things more. What it results in is a very fanatical portion of the Republican Party or the extreme right wing or whatever you want to call it, it is going to militarize them in a way that I don't think we've actually seen before. Because for as much as the Antifa and BLM riots and everything were highly militarized to an extent with the way they organized and attacked and looted and burned and everything else, they are not the heavily armed portion of the U.S. population. And you're going to start seeing that portion of the U.S. population get more and more radicalized because they are being pushed to it. Like let's not sugarcoat it. Let's not act like these were violent, radical psychopaths to begin with, because they sincerely were not. For 8 years of an Obama administration, you never saw right-wing protesters or rallies turn into full-on riots. It never happened. That's not who these people are. I mean, for all of the 2A protests and rallies that have gone on, for all of the anti-lockdown and anti-mask protests and rallies that have gone on over the past several years, you have not seen any of those erupt into violence or rioting, looting, any of that stuff. In fact, there was the one in Virginia, I guess it was around this time last year, that it was a 2A rally, and at the end of the rally, and there was all kinds of media hysteria about it because it was a bunch of heavily armed Second Amendment supporters who were coming out to protest some legislation that the state of Virginia was trying to pass. And there was all this like craziness surrounding that of how it was going to turn into a total riot and how all of these heavily armed people, it was just going to be terrible. And at the end of it, literally no one got hurt. Nothing happened. The protesters who were there stayed behind and cleaned up the streets. They actually, there was videos and pictures of these guys scraping the stickers off of the street and off of the sidewalk that they had. They left things in better shape than what it was when they showed up. So these groups being radicalized to the point of actual violence and actual riotous behavior, this is not who they are or what they want. This is what they have been pushed to. And if you don't see that, again, it is willful blindness and ignorance to what the reality of the situation is. I don't know how else to put it. We are seeing the hypocrisy of the left on such just blatant display day after day after day. And like they don't even see it themselves. Most of their supporters, I'm sure, like the ones who are doing it, they understand what they're doing, but they don't give a shit. And their supporters don't realize that they're being totally played to whatever the narrative is that the establishment needs to push. That is what is being pushed. And all of their supporters are just, whatever they say, that's right. And that's what we're going to go with. And that is being a total statist, dumb fuck. Period. Like, we have got to wake up and see what the government is doing to us, to separate us, to divide us, and to keep us distracted from the fact that they are the problem. They are the problem. It's not Antifa and BLM. It's not alt-right or a bunch of Trump nut jobs. It is the government dividing us every single day in every way they can to try to keep people stupid and to try to keep people at each other's throats so that we don't turn on them and go at their throats. And on the topic of the government's hypocrisy, I'm sure probably some people have been paying attention and seen the tweet that came out from Andrew Cuomo. Cuomo said that we can't keep everything locked down in New York, or there's not going to be an economy to reopen after all of this is over with. And now Lori Lightfoot in Chicago is also suggesting that it's time to start opening things back up. Her excuse for wanting to open things back up is even better. That she wants to open restaurants and stuff back up to prevent underground parties from happening. Like, so you are openly acknowledging that your just terrible dictates and mandates are creating an underground market for this stuff. Like, okay, so maybe we should look at the war on drugs. Maybe we should look at literally everything else that the government is banning and imposing this stuff on us, because all of it has, well, I want to say unforeseen consequences, but it's all very obvious consequences. Like, when you do this stuff, there is going to be a pushback. It is going to create a black market. It's going to create underground markets. It is going to cause, people are still going to do the shit that you make illegal. They're just going to find ways around it. And so that's what, that's what's going on anyway. But now it's so crazy. Like, they are starting to push for opening back up because Joe Biden is about to be the president. Like, we are less than a week away from him being sworn in. And at that point, everything is going to flip on its head. And John Odermatt on Lions of Liberty, his new show, Finding Freedom, he talked about it a couple weeks ago, and I've talked about it on my Facebook, and I might even talked about it last week in an episode. I don't think I did. But anyway, like, they are setting the stage for all of this to get completely flipped on its head. They're going to reopen everything. They're going to push business back to normal, and they're going to give Joe Biden 100% of the credit for it. They're going to try to do some 30 or 60-day hard lockdown, mask mandate on everything. And during that time, they're going to fix the PCR tests and get the testing done right so that it's not showing 90 to 95% false positives like it is right now. So, and then the caseloads are going to drop significantly. They'll start counting things as what they actually are for deaths. Instead of counting literally every fucking thing as COVID, they'll start actually attributing the cause of death to the actual cause of death and not just labeling it all as COVID. And you're going to see all of the numbers and all of the trends just plummet. And they're going to say, we fixed it. See, Donald Trump was an idiot. We just needed to do this. We got it right. We saved the country. Open it all back up. And it's all fucking bullshit. Like, the problem is, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter that they flipped on their head everything that they've been saying for the last 10 months. None of this matters. Because the people who support them are too fucking stupid to understand that they are being played. It's time for us to unite. Like, we need to be having the conversations with everybody. But there is a large base in this country that does not identify as extreme woke leftists. It's a significant portion of moderate, middle of the road, just regular Democrats who don't necessarily think that the Republicans do things right, but that don't view the wokeness as a good thing either. And those are the people that we need to be having conversations with. There is a huge group of Republicans who do not agree with all the insane Trumpiness of everything that's gone on for the last 4 years. They just want to see the economy opened up and things to be managed properly, and to just have some stability. Those are the people we need to be talking to. There are people on both sides who are seeing that the system has failed. Because let's not get it confused here. It has 100% failed. Every last fucking one of us. The only people that this system is working for are the ones who are in government, in power, and make it work for themselves. Every single one of us outside of that, we are getting fucked on a daily basis. If you hadn't figured that out, look at any receipt from a purchase you made and look at the taxes you paid on it. Look at your pay stubs and the Social Security that's taken out, the taxes that are taken out. If you're my age, you'll never see a single fucking dime of that Social Security money that they hold out of your check. If you have any hope of a retirement, it's because you invest privately. And honestly, if you invest privately, you have a better chance of making more money when you retire than what you're going to get from Social Security anyway. It's a fucking Ponzi scheme. And it's a topic for a whole other episode, and I'm not getting into that. But like everything about the system is screwing us over. And it doesn't matter if you support the left or the right. You're still getting screwed over. It doesn't matter if you're a hardcore wokist or a super Trumper or somewhere in the middle. You are getting fucked every day. And they don't care. They know they're doing it. And that's what they've built their careers on, is doing it. With all of the craziness that's coming up, with the way the left wants to run things for the next at least 2 years while they've got control of the House, Senate, and the presidency, it is going to divide the country more and more. Texas has a secessionist movement already in place. If some of this stuff that the Democrats want to impose actually happens, there's going to be a large swaths of the country that follow in suit and start to either just completely ignore everything and incite their 10th Amendment right to that the government is basically 99.8% unconstitutional as it is currently composed, and start saying we're going to do our own thing because y'all don't have the jurisdictional right to do that. It's going to create divides, and I really am looking forward to it. I think it's going to come pretty quick, and I can't wait for it to come. Anybody who's been listening to this podcast knows that I am full-on secessionist. Like, I want everything to break apart. And I have a fear that with the way they are riling up both sides, the inflammatory reporting and language that's being used, the way they're trying to censor people on the right and libertarians, the way they're really kind of stoking the fires of the left to the extreme leftists to go after the Trump supporters or just regular Republicans or even libertarians. Like, they are creating a hostile environment that is going to blow up in all of our faces very, very soon. And it's kind of a scary thing, but at the same time, like, it's kind of inevitable with the way, for the past 20 years or so, the way everything has been getting really pushed and pushed and pushed, and the flames have been stoked more and more. So it's going to be interesting, and I really do think this country is going to go out. I mean, in true American fashion, we are going to go out with a bang. Like, when we break this thing up, we're going to blow this motherfucker up. And I just hope that there are enough people on the right side of it as far as wanting to see it happen peacefully, to have something on the other side that is a place we can all live and do our thing and not have to worry about the government interfering with us, and not have to worry about having, your neighbors turn against you because they disagree with you. In a pure libertarian society, I don't give two shits if you're on the right or the left or somewhere in the middle. Let me do me, you do you, and let's just get along. Because it really is that fucking simple. We could all just get along if we would put the petty bullshit aside and talk to each other. And there are people who won't do that, who refuse to do that. And that's sad, but that's the reality we live in. I'm going to wrap on that. Hopefully everybody has had a good week, and hopefully you have a good weekend. I will be back next week to talk about more random bullshit, and gosh, hopefully nothing stupid happens between now and then. It's going to be fun. It's going to be entertaining, if nothing else. So have a good weekend, everybody. Catch you later.